Thank you, Dr. Townsend, Mr. O'Keefe, President O'Donnell, Father Spitzer, Father Pollard, faculty, staff, parents, friends, and we are the 40th and the largest graduating class, and I must say I couldn't think of a greater honor than speaking on behalf of Christendom's reigning champions in tug of war. Not that I was much help there. I only have a little time, but I would like to reflect on some of the highlights of our Christendom education. I considered following Dr. Wunsch's template that he uses in his talk to returning students. I could never be as erudite as Dr. Wunsch, but I shall endeavor to keep to my time limit. Truly, time is precious. Our time here as students of the liberal arts has been precious. As Bishop Burbidge reminded us in his homily yesterday, every success that we are celebrating today has been a gift. Each passing year confirms for me how profoundly blessed I have been to be called to the vocation of a student at Christendom. Studying the liberal arts is certainly a vocation, for the pursuit of speculative wisdom demands that we sacrifice many other goods. In my last semesters at Christendom, I began asking my peers and other college students that I met if at that very moment they were to leave college and be unable to complete their degree, what would they do? The answers people gave provided a lot of insight into what they really valued and how they saw their Christendom degree or their degree from other colleges contributing to that. Some would start their own businesses. Others would return home and work for the family business. Many would take an entry-level position in an industry that they loved and work to positions of greater stewardship. Some would enter the military. Some would pursue other kinds of service like training in horse therapy for children with disabilities or going abroad to serve the church as missionaries. In many cases, though not all, our dreams and our lifelong vocations do not require a bachelor's degree, and we will do our best at the same good work for the Lord either way. True, more jobs today require a bachelor's degree, but the content of one's courses matters little. It is safe to say that most of the pursuits we embark on could be done and are done without the 86-hour core and the advanced courses in philosophy, theology, and the humanities. The beauty and the value of the liberal arts, as we know, is that they are for their own sake. Not long ago, a Bachelor of Arts from any serious Catholic institution meant that one had completed at least 18 hours of rigorous philosophical study, the same requirement that we have. Frederick Wilhelmsen, who was one of the founding editors of Triumph magazine and a renowned Thomistic philosopher, described how in World War II, the soldiers who had a Catholic university background would converse about abstruse philosophical problems to the bewilderment of their comrades. We have something similar in the St. Lawrence Commons, and more formally on the floor of the Chester Belloc Debate Society. Sitting down at a lunch table, you are guaranteed to stimulate conversation by probing the strengths of Thomas's 5 ways, the nature of liberty, or the criteria of beauty in art. I hope that we will all continue having those conversations in earnest, remembering that philosophy is not a body of knowledge to be read and consumed. It is a habit of mind, one that we must continually make our own, primarily through conversation. And through conversation, as Aristotle says, we participate in the most crucial aspect of friendship, convivere, living together. The Christendom community has an unparalleled combination of intellectual virtues and moral virtues which mutually reinforce one another and effect a holistic transformation of the mind and the heart. Most of you are familiar with C.S. Lewis's great work, The Abolition of Man, in which he describes the problem of modern education as creating men without chests, men divided against themselves, the head's intellect against the belly's appetite, with no heart to unite them. In a word, what modern higher education lacks that Christendom offers is integrity. Integrity of the curriculum. I can't count the number of times that I've met passages of Plato Aristotle, Aquinas, Leo XIII, John Paul II in multiple subjects during the same semester, but also integrity of purpose in our education. It is not just that the discussions transcend the boundaries of major. It is that our knowledge refines our experience of life as a whole. It refines our taste and our desire for what is truly fulfilling. Appetite follows apprehension, yes? And when our intellect and our desires are united by heart, when our energies are in harmony with our nature and our dignity as persons in the image of God, then are we truly free. We are achieving the liberal arts' proper end. And to expand on what my friend Milana Fritz said earlier, we are building up cathedrals in one another's souls. And the tools that we use here are the humanities and the sciences. We are met, as every generation is in fact met, with the question, why the liberal arts? This semester I read an exquisite speech, also by C.S. Lewis, called Learning in Wartime. It was a sermon preached to the students of Oxford at the beginning of the fall term in 1939, during the first weeks of World War II. And in that sermon, Lewis says to the students, and says to us, quote, "We have to inquire whether there is really any legitimate place for the activities of the scholar in a world such as this." Lewis says that beyond the pressing demands of war, quote, "Every Christian who comes to a university must at all times face a question compared with which the questions raised by war are relatively unimportant. He must ask himself how it is right, or even psychologically possible, for creatures who are every moment advancing either to heaven or to hell, to spend any fraction of the little time allowed them in this world on such comparative trivialities as literature or art, mathematics or biology. If human culture can stand up to that, it can stand up to anything." The answer to this challenge, the defense of the vocation to the intellectual life, is that man cannot devote every energy at every moment to serving the nation or even to spreading the kingdom of God. These are duties, but they are not the whole of human life. Nor can you successfully suspend your intellectual life, Lewis says. If you don't read good books, you will read bad ones, he says. If you don't go on thinking rationally, you will think irrationally. If you reject aesthetic satisfactions, you will fall into sensual satisfactions. I owe one more insight to Lewis, something that struck my heart deeply when I realized how it applied to me and to my classmates. And that is the fact that our parents sent us to Christendom, that our circumstances and God-given talents allowed us to remain here is prima facie evidence that we were meant to glorify God these 4 years in the learned life. A few of us are so blessed as to continue the vocation of student in graduate school, but all of us, whether entering a new stage of professional life, beginning new families, or going on to take vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience, all of us have been called to seek wisdom these 4 years. And every day of our lives hereafter is a gift as well. Dr. Rice recalled to me earlier how to whom much has been given, much will be asked. With all that we have been given, there will undoubtedly be many great responsibilities for us as graduates. I find it exhilarating that God formed each and every one of us unique and unrepeatable for such a time as this, as John Paul II would say. As human beings, we're made for wonder. We are made for truth, and we are made for communion. The grace that I am praying for and the grace that I'd ask you all to pray for with me is that we continue for the rest of our lives to grow in wisdom, in the philosophical habit of mind, and in charity. May our words and our actions testify to the truth in all things. May we pursue our respective vocations each day with greater integrity. May we ultimately achieve the true freedom that is the perfection of man. And to borrow from St. Irenaeus, may we be men and women fully alive for the greater glory of God.